Welcome to the Evolution of Aloha podcast with me, Dr. Jerry Ibalarosa Tanel. Now let's talk story. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I am actually, first of all, welcome to the Evolution of Aloha podcast, a Plowline Media production. And I am your host, Dr. Jerry Ibalarosa Tanel. And I am so excited to be talking with Dr. Erin Lightfoot today, the new Dr. Erin Lightfoot. She is the owner and founder of Lightfoot Self and Soul and a spiritual wellness and feminine energy coach. She has over a decade of experience in mindfulness and breath work, and her journey toward wellness began when, as an adult, she struggled with anxiety and a sensitive nervous system. So this is when she discovered the power of mindfulness, which became a transformative practice for emotional regulation and self-grounding. But before we get started, one of the first things that I like to do is I like to honor the land on which our feet stand. So I'll begin by acknowledging that those of us who are gathering in the Pacific Northwest area, we are on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin since time immemorial. We respect this place and honor the sacred spiritual connection to the land, water, and its people, past, present, and future. And by acknowledging these lands and their original indigenous inhabitants, we reach back to our own indigenous roots and reflect on the impacts of colonialism in the lands from which all our people come. We're connected to our ancestors through this connection to land, for the land is what connects us all. So please join us in taking a moment to honor the land of the traditional people in the territory in which you stand. Today, I honor the Tulalip tribes and the allied bands for their enduring care and continuous protection of the land where I currently reside. So thank you so much for being here. Dr. Erin, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, which I understand this is your first podcast.
Yes, girl. I'm so excited. I'm thrilled and honored, elated, just blissful beyond comprehension to be here. And you're my girl. We go way back. It's all full circle. It feels beautiful.
Exactly. Because we met at the California Institute of Integral Studies, where we both received our doctorate. And we were actually coming together during our cohort in Pacifica.
Yep.
Oh man, that place. Amazing.
Oh, talk about some beautiful, magical, spiritual land, Pacifica.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. It's like, I don't know if I ever shared with you, but it was my last cohort there before I would start writing. And I think you were there. But that morning I went up on the hill and everything like that, where I would usually go, and I would sit there and I would meditate. And that was the last time that I was going to be there. So I'm sitting there and I'm just connecting with everything. And I look down below and there is a pod of dolphins. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And then as I'm sitting there, like, I'm not kidding, a California red fox just pops up like right next to me, like, yo, what's up?
Wow.
And then there was a hawk just circling above. And I was like, everything that is so magical of that place was happening in that moment. And then that night at dinner, it was the last night that we were there. And it was amazing. So yeah, it's very magical. And it was such an honor to be able to meet up with you. We had some good times.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I just want to reflect that story for a hot second. Okay. So what I heard you say was, in seeing, okay, a pod of dolphins, a fox, and a hawk. That's water animal, mammal, fox, furry animal, land, and hawk, feathered animal, air. And girl, you were the only element missing was fire, but that was you, the phoenix rising. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's what's up right there. Yes. I love that.
Yes, yes. So I wanted to talk about your dissertation. What was the title of your dissertation?
Exploring the possible emergence of relational and pro-social leadership in a mindfulness-based transitional kindergarten classroom.
That's a lot of words.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So really what I was, okay, so to bring it back to what you were sharing before. So I consider myself, I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. Ever since childhood, middle school, high school, all throughout college. And it wasn't until my first job out of college, I'll never forget this experience where I was sitting around a conference table with my new colleagues, 'cause I was new to the job. And again, so anxiety. So again, like that, even I remember that day even feeling really anxious. And I describe anxiety as feeling like a worried, nervous, buzzy feeling with racing thoughts and just a general sense of unease. And that was my lived experience pretty much my whole life. And I didn't really know that there was a different way of being, because that's just the world and the that was so indicative of my inner world just on a day-to-day basis. And so fast forward into my very first job out of college, we're sitting around a conference table and being trained in mindfulness breathing techniques. Well, I had never even heard of the term mindfulness, but I was like, okay, I'm willing to try. And again, I was the new person there, so I wasn't going to contest anything. And I remember as we were being trained in these mindfulness breathing techniques, and mindfulness is defined as the awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So you're aware of what's happening in the present moment, so not tomorrow, not yesterday, right now, and non-judgmentally. And I think that's probably, I would say that's the more challenging aspect of developing a mindfulness practice, is not getting swept up in the story. So anyways,
Right.
mindfulness is most often enacted through breathing techniques, which have been medically and scientifically proven to regulate your nervous system from that fight or flight, anxious state into a state of rest and digest, or your parasympathetic nervous system. So, okay, so we're doing these breathing techniques. And when we were done, I distinctly remember thinking, okay, I don't know what just happened, but I want more of that. And that's what sparked my breadcrumb trail toward wellness and healing. And I just started taking all these yoga classes and mindfulness classes and meditation classes. And I just want to keep soaking up all this yummy, good feeling of calm, because I was tired of feeling like a cat on a hot tin roof all the
Mm.
time. And so that led me to that experience. It made me think. And I remember these like percolating moments throughout that time frame. How might my life have been different if I had been taught to breathe as a child? And not that I had some tumultuous childhood, though it may have alleviated some of my anxiety if I knew how to identify the language to identify how I was feeling, and tools to help me regulate. And so that actually brought me to the CIS for the master's program, where I have my master's in transformative leadership. And I conducted a capstone action project, or thesis project, where I designed a series of mindfulness-based workshops for a transitional kindergarten classroom. And throughout that process, I just kept thinking, because again, it's a leadership master's, and I kept seeing, I'm like, there's a correlation here. Not only could mindfulness breathing techniques help a child learn how to regulate, but how might this affect future leadership? And so that's where my new breadcrumb trail was formed. And I, conducted a full-blown doctoral research study, because I really wanted to get to the bottom of it, and really understanding the internal landscape of a 5-year-old, particularly the emotional landscape of a 5-year-old. And what would that even look like in a mindfulness-based transitional kindergarten classroom, in terms of boosting emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and pro-social behavior. And just to be clear, transitional kindergarten, that term,
Hmm.
transitional kindergarten that's transitional kindergarten, or TK, is the first of a 2-year kindergarten program, where TK is more developmentally focused and kindergarten is more focused on academics. And so TK is very similar to preschool. It's like a wedging in between preschool and kindergarten.
Okay.
And generally, the policies changed a little bit in terms of enrollment, but at the time of my study, in order to enroll in transitional kindergarten, the students needed to be born between September 2nd and December 2nd. So they're exactly 3 months apart from each other, which was really cool because they were so close in age. So it allowed me to track them throughout the entire school year with relatively more accuracy, if you will, in terms of their emotional capacity and just noticing patterns, because they were so close in age. But yeah, so exploring the possible emergence of relational and pro-social leadership. When I think of relational leadership, so relational leadership is a leadership style that's where everyone at the table essentially is leading the team, rather than just one person, the one person in charge, the hierarchical structure, which, societally speaking, like, that's what we're used to. Like, that's what we're used to, is like the one person in charge who's leading, leading the whole thing. But our world is really moving into a globalized space. And I mean, we're online with each other now. And while there's definitely a need for, individuals to be in charge, there's also space now for everyone at the table to have a voice, for everyone at the table to have decision-making power and collaboration, because like gone are the days of command and control being the dominant managerial and leadership ideology.
And starting with the kindergartners, teaching them these leadership skills and everything. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is, it's like this whole breathing thing. It's what we do every single day. Right? People are like, well, this is how I'm alive. I wake up and I'm breathing. And right?
Why do I have to learn how to breathe?
Why do I have to learn how to breathe?
Yeah.
So tell me more about this intentional breathing, on what it does to our bodies.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love this topic. Okay. So, yeah, great segue too. People think, like, why the fuck do I need to learn how to breathe? Like, I was born breathing. Obviously how I stay alive. The problem is that when we're in this anxious, upregulated state, what ends up happening is, if you'll notice, in a room full of adults, what you'll notice is that most adults tend to be breathing in their upper chest. And it's because, most adults are just like, we lead insanely crazy, busy, anxious lives. And frankly, we're all hurting and in pain. And so it's it's like a retraining of how to breathe properly, how to slow your breathing down, to breathe into your belly. That's really what I specialize in, is yoga breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, teaching your retraining that muscle. So your diaphragm is a muscle, and just like any muscle, like you work out your biceps, same thing with diaphragmatic breathing. And so learning to breathe through your nose and out through your mouth. Why in through your nose? In the breath coaching world, we say noses are for breathing, mouths are for eating. Oftentimes when people are really stressed out, they're off-gassing all of their CO2. And so when you breathe through your nose, there's neuroreceptors in your nose that signal safety to the brain. And so when you start breathing in through your nose, what you're telling your brain is, I'm safe, I'm safe. And then when you breathe into the back of your throat, now you're activating your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is directly connected to activating your parasympathetic nervous system. And so when you train yourself to breathe in through your nose and dragging your breath to the back of your throat, now you're telling your brain, I'm safe and I'm calm. I'm safe and I'm calm. And learning to breathe into your lower belly. Your belly expands on the inhale and contracts on the exhale. Just those 3 components alone, if you can master those 3 components, breathing in through your nose, dragging it through the back of your throat, and extending your belly on the inhale, and contracting on the exhale to the count of 4, you will notice a significant change in your mood, your energy, your ability to focus relatively quickly. This is why people that start doing breath work end up fucking loving breath work, because it's like, oh my gosh, this was so quick. Like that was my experience too, is wow, I noticed this immediate change within my body with just a couple minutes of a simple breathing practice.
Right. Well, this is what we tell our kids, right? It's
Mhm.
like when our kids are coming in and they're like, something happened and we can't understand what they're saying. We ask them to calm down and just take a breath.
Yeah.
Just take a breath. But
Mhm.
then as adults, we never do that. I feel that we have just a shallow way of breathing. And when
Mhm.
you have that shallow way of breathing, you're not bringing in the oxygen to your nervous system and to
Mhm.
all of your organs. And then we wonder why we have high blood pressure, why we have kidney issues, because we are not breathing right.
Mhm. Also digestive issues and sleep issues, because
Yes.
your uh improper breathing will inextricably affect your digestive system. Why? Because when you're in that upregulated nervous system state, your blood flow is moving to the limbic system. It's not going to your digestive tract. Why? Because your subconscious mind is like, oh, we're in a state of alert. When you're in that anxious state, that fight or flight, your body's an alert, attack. What's going to attack me? A tiger, a bear? What's going to, because that is, we've evolved, a lot. We have cell phones and whatnot since like the Paleolithic
Right.
era, but our nervous systems have not evolved as much. Like we're still, like when we feel this sense of threat, it's no longer a saber-toothed tiger. Now it's 1,000 emails in your inbox. It's traffic on the freeway when you're already late for work. It's needing to get your kids to the extracurricular and make dinner and do homework, and don't forget your own self-care and work out. It's all the things, and it keeps us in this upregulated state. Well, that when we're in that upregulated state, our blood flow is going to the limbic system because we're on alert. The blood's like, okay, we need to fucking stay safe here. Like your nervous system and your subconscious mind specifically, it doesn't really give a shit about your feelings. It gives a shit about keeping you alive. That's its
Right.
whole purpose and function, is to keep you safe. And so many of us, because we're in this state, that keeps us in autopilot. And so we're just
Hmm.
in this automatic, feet, the moment our feet hit the floor in the morning, the rest of the day is a blur because we're blah, 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 blah. So again,
Right.
blood flowing to the limbic system, it's not flowing to the digestive tract, because it's like, okay, what's the priority? Running from the tiger or digesting the bird? Running from the tiger. And so when you first off become consciously aware of the patterns, because you can't solve a problem until you become aware, identify what the problem is, becoming consciously aware of, oh shit, that's me. I'm in that cycle. That's okay. I'm not going to judge myself. Mindfulness. I'm just noticing this is where I'm at. Okay, so what pattern could I change? Okay, I could train myself to slow down by breathing deeply into my belly to the count of 4. It's free to breathe properly, and it'll
Hmm.
change your whole, I mean, change your day. It'll change your whole life, and how you spend your days, how you spend your life. So yeah, so and in regards to the digestive piece, yeah, then your blood will flow to your digestive tract to allow you to assimilate the nutrients, and then you'll see a difference. You'll see a change in your ability to digest, and your immune system will increase. Um,
But
yeah.
not in this, not in our current state that we're in, right? It's like even with we don't have these kinds of practices when we go to work. So
Mhm.
organizations and institutions keep us at this high alert. And the more stressed you are, the more successful you are.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
it's, and people don't think about this burnout.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to have the support to be able to be like, all right, I'm sure, I mean, I know that there's countries out there that will allow their employees to go take a nap,
Gosh.
go outside for a long walk, go take
Yeah.
2 hours or whatever it is. Not
Mhm.
us. It's like you've got 45 minutes. to eat your lunch, which again, that digestive part of it, you're just rushing through it. So
Mhm.
then that way you can get back to work, because if not, you're going to be getting into trouble. And all of these things. So
Mhm.
this constant cortisol dump,
Mhm.
constant cortisol dump. So it's like, you talking about how we can teach kindergartners.
Mhm.
And I think as long as they have that support all the way through their life, there may be a different generation
Mhm. Girl,
of how we're
yes.
doing things.
Yes. And I'm so, I'm so grateful to the many, 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 many people, the curriculum developers, the teachers who are really moving into adapting and adopting mindful practices and mindful philosophy into the classrooms. Because like, where do you find a group of kids in a classroom? And yeah, the studies show, and one thing that I had really emphasized in my research was something called the window of opportunity. So what the window of opportunity is it's this neurological restructuring that occurs in the prefrontal cortex, this front part of your brain that's referred to as the air traffic control system of the brain. That's responsible for thinking, planning, decision making, and also the ability to empathize. So we teach the kids. We say, "This is your thinky think spot." And we go, "Dee, dee, 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 dee," and they all go, "Dee, dee, 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 dee," and it's so cute. So there's a neurological restructuring occurring in the prefrontal cortex during this 4 to 6 age range. That right there, like right 5, like 4 to 6, and those 5-year-olds in kindergarten. And there's another neurological restructuring that occurs later, between the ages of 12 to 14, so like beginning puberty. But at any rate, so what the research, the mindfulness and education research is really pointing toward, at least one research study by the name of Jensen, suggested that one of the most opportune times to introduce a mindfulness practice that will not so much be hardwired into the brain, but build a familiarity in terms of recognizing, oh, this is how I'm feeling and this is what I need, becoming mindful about oneself and about what's going on in their inner world during this window of opportunity. And so really that was my argument for my entire research for, okay, if I'm looking at relational leadership, why am I looking at 5-year-olds? Well, because if we introduce a breathing practice that feels good, that is easy for them to do, coupled with emotional literacy. So then beginning to recognize and articulate their emotional state through this really cool tool called the mood meter, which was developed by Mark Brackett and his team at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. It's called the mood meter. And it's a color coding system, red, yellow, blue, and green color coding system that helps children um, uh, determine and articulate what their emotional state is. And why is that even important for a child? Because when a child has a nuanced feelings vocabulary, now they can actually express to you and tell you what's going on without just throwing a tantrum. They can tell you how they're feeling, without being judgmental of themselves. And this allows them to regulate. So when you couple that with, okay, here's how I'm feeling. Okay, so the red zone, if they're in the red zone indicates feelings of anger, rage, frustration. So when you're feeling really angry, there's a lot of red zone energy going on right now in the world. Hello. Okay, a lot of us can relate with that, and no judgment if you're like, oh shit, that's me. That's okay. It's just there's stuff going on. Then the yellow zone. Yellow zone indicates feelings of like anxious or like silly, hyper, an upregulated state, but not so angry. It's just more like, woo, I got a lot of energy going on. That's yellow zone. Blue zone. Blue zone is, you think blue, sad, sick, low, lonely, tired, just kind of blue. A little bit more down regulated. And then we have the green zone. The green zone indicates feelings of feeling kind of neutral, stable, steady,
Yes.
chill. I think of the green zone as like the Goldilocks, the Goldilocks zone, not too cold, not too hot, not too cold, just right, not too upregulated, not too downregulated, just right. That's green zone. That's really the ideal place that we're all kind of, aspiring to be, but it doesn't mean that any of these zones are bad. There's really what your emotions are doing. Your emotions are just pointing you toward a wound that was tripped, a core wound, something like, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, nobody likes me, something's wrong with me, a wound that was tripped, an unmet need. What do I need right now? Do I need comfort? Do I need to feel important? Do I need recognition? Do I need validation? What is it that I need right now? Do I need connection? Or a boundary that was crossed. Somebody said something that was, violating your person, or somebody touched you in the wrong way, things like that. And our emotions are just pointing us to one of those three areas. It's like your internal GPS. And so by becoming mindfully aware of how you're feeling in your body, coupled with self-regulation techniques such as breathing, or sensory items. Like if you're really fidgety, if you have a lot of energy, somebody like me, like I need a lot of movement. That's why I walk during my day. I make sure that I include a lot of exercise in my day, because it helps me ground, it helps me regulate.
Right.
Yeah, and then teaching this to kindergartners. And fun fact, the mood meter, the zones of regulation, research has shown that children as young as 3 are able to use this tool with relative accuracy.
It's so important. It's like one of the things that I've been actually bringing to the attention of adults is self-regulation, self-reflection, and self-awareness, right? And it sounds like this is the same thing that we're teaching to kindergartners. And it's like, I think as long as the adults that are in the lives of these children are doing the same thing. So it's like your work and your research, even though it was meant for kindergartners, it can still apply to adults. Maybe we all need a emotional meter and everything.
Yes. I mean, that's a great point. And so early on in my research, I was actually planning to open an early childhood leadership preschool academy with a couple of teaching colleagues of mine. And I mean, this was like in the works. We had our business name, we were filing paperwork, and for some reason there was something that wasn't feeling right. It wasn't that it was feeling wrong, it just wasn't feeling like that was my next step, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why, until I had this epiphany that it was, oh, this is because adults need this work just as much as kids do. And it when I reframed it in that way, I realized that I had been guided, my belief system anyways, that I had been guided to research children, the inner landscape of children, to fully understand the inner child of an adult. And so this is how and there's so much crossover between my work with children and what it is that I'm now doing with adults, which is very much around getting adults in their body. So I'm a spiritual wellness and feminine energy coach. What that means, spiritual wellness, getting into your body mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. What does that mean? Okay, so getting into your body mentally. Getting into your body mentally means being able to hear your inner voice, being able to hear that inner dialogue, being able to hear your inner dialogue is like your narrator that's just walking around, talking shit on you and talking shit on everyone else. And that's the language that's coming from the belief systems in your subconscious mind. And so getting into your body mentally is training yourself to hear that voice. That's where the mindfulness comes in, is what story am I telling myself, and getting into the habit of cultivating that internal reflective skill. That's getting into your body mentally, getting into your body emotionally. Okay, so we feel our emotions in our body. Many of us are quick to intellectualize our feelings, right, or rationalize them.
Yep.
But it's learning to feel. And so what's the difference between feelings and emotions? We feel our emotions. Our emotions are felt as sensations. Okay, so if I'm embarrassed, I might feel heat on my face. Sadness, I have a lump in my throat. I can feel some stinging behind my eyes. I'm feeling really scared. Oh my gosh, that pit in my stomach. For me, anxiety, that's where I feel it big time, is right there in that solar plexus spot. And so I've become so attuned to when I feel that feeling, I already know exactly. I'm like, okay, this is anxiety. What do I need? What do I need right now? Okay, I need, my anxiety is usually connected to a sense of overwhelm. And so what I need in that moment is clarity, a plan, something that's going to help me feel like I'm not so scattered. Okay, so that's getting into your body emotionally and being able to articulate it. Getting into your body physically. Getting into your body physically is beginning to recognize just how you're feeling within the confines of your own skin. Am I feeling tired? Am I hungry? How's my energy level? Am I sore? Am I just getting into your body physically
Mhm.
to feel your body? Like, we're so many of us live from the neck up that we have no idea what's even going on in our body. And then getting into your body spiritually, that's your ability to connect to your higher self, your angels, your guides, universe, source, spirit, God, whatever, to the spirituality of your own understanding. Which might look very different than anybody else's, or
Mhm.
what you were trained to believe as a child. It's just getting
Right.
into your body. So getting into your body mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And that's feminine energy, baby. Feminine energy is all about being emotional and wild and soft and expressive and being able to the fuck you want to be, because you're in your body. It allows you to just move and feel so flowy. Life becomes so much, at least from my experience, this is just speaking from personal experience, because I used to be very, very rigid. Like, when I was so in my anxious state permanently, I was also very rigid. I've struggled with digestive issues and unexplained migraines. And I was so angry all the time and just frustrated and irritable and just like quick to pop off. And it's because I was so fucking dysregulated. And so
Mhm.
now I've learned, all these really fucking cool ass tools that have allowed me to drop into my body, and my life is so much smoother now. Now, here's the thing. Have I figured everything out about this thing called life? Absolutely fucking not. And I'd be lying to my fucking teeth if I tried to tell you, oh, I'm completely healed. I'm like so fucking zen. Like, no, I definitely have my work
Right,
I'm
right, right.
still fucking doing. I'm still on my motherfucking healing journey, and I'm okay with it. I love that. Like, I think the whole life is like, it's all one big gigantic healing.
Right.
The difference is now I could recognize when I'm in that anxious state, and I don't stay there.
Mhm.
I can go from a 10 to a 2 relatively quickly, to where now I would say that my life is mostly happy. I'm like 80% of the time. I mean, I have dips for fucking sure. And I have, moments where I'm like
Right.
kind of in a
Right.
dip state, but I'm aware of that. And like, here's what I see of the art of doing emotional regulation work. Becoming aware of how you're feeling, even if it's that anger and rage, because we are so quick to judge ourselves when we're in a
Mhm.
state of anger and rage,
Right.
anxiety, and it's like we stuff it down. Well, guess what? Suppression leads to depression. So if we're stuffing everything down, it's like that's not emotional control. Emotional control is becoming aware of, oh fuck, okay, I'm feeling really anxious right now, and learning to move through it, which is different than spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is, oh, I'm just going to love and light this shit all the way. I'm just going to mantra and sage light.
Right. Right.
This is becoming aware of, oh, I'm feeling this way. I'm okay with the fact that I'm feeling this way. I know why I'm feeling this way. And now I'm going to move through this. This is why journaling practices are so effective. Yeah, movement, just, I mean, sometimes even just drinking water, going on a walk. Like, if you've been sitting at your desk and like hammering it out for 5 or 6 hours, yeah, you're gonna be fucking edgy. There's no way I would
Mhm.
sit
Mhm.
in a fucking cubicle and be a nice person. No, it's like we have various needs, and so it's getting into right relationship with what your personal needs are and learning to feel that in your body. Life changing.
Yes. It's like I love that you talk about this feminine energy and being able to feel your body, right? Feel the emotions, feel what's happening. A lot of times men
Mm.
have a hard time.
Yes.
Men have a hard time with that. What are some of the advice that you could give some of our men who are like, I'm not gonna feel, my feel is angry. My feel
Yeah.
is I'm too strong for this. It's like I don't need this feminine bullshit because I'm a man, right?
Yeah.
And what do you say about that?
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Men are allowed to feel like anger, um, or excitement, like with sports and whatnot.
Right.
Like and sadness, though it's usually kind of like very like situation specific, like like a funeral or some things like that. But it's quick afterwards, like gotta button it back up.
Right.
Yeah, with men, oh my gosh, so much compassion I have for men. Um, I just so strongly urge men to, again, men also, men and women are very different. Okay, I think we can agree on that. Men tend to be more intellectual and in their heads. I mean, there's women who are, very intellectual and in their heads, maybe more in their masculine energy, which is totally fine. Masculine energy is a beautiful energy. We need masculine energy to do the things. Like right now, it's like we're kind of in our masculine energy. Like we're
Right. Right.
upregulated. We're doing the dang thing. Though with men are also celebrated for being in that state constantly and perpetually.
Yes.
Um, and a lot of societal shaming around men's ability to express and emote. My recommendation, and I work with men, I have male clients as well that I work with. I would do a lot of subconscious reprogramming around what are you making it mean? What are you making it mean if you're feeling sad? What are you making it mean if you're feeling, jealous? What are you making it mean if you're feeling, because it's always points back to the meaning that we're making of how it is that we're feeling. And like, okay, what are you afraid might happen is another great question to poke holes in the story that you're telling yourself. What are you afraid might happen? And oftentimes with men, it's like, I'm afraid that I'm going to be like exiled from the group. I'm going to be seen as a sissy and
Hmm.
insert all the
Hmm.
feminine terminology most
Yeah.
probably. Um, it's really out of fear. Like that's really what's at the root of it is it's fear and feeling unsafe to emote. And so, yeah, my recommendation for men is definitely journaling practices. I think if you have that, if you're one that um acclimates to a writing practice, that's really great because what that does is that helps to take all the thoughts from the mind and kind of it concretizes them. It gives them because our mind is so swirly, like we're just
Right.
all. And so when you journal, it now gives a focus to what the thoughts are in your mind, and now you can begin to peel apart the patterns that you're recognizing, and it just gives it like something solid. That tends to be, I find, really effective for men. Breathing practices as well, and just using the power of intellect to become consciously aware of how you're feeling within yourself. And really, we have this societal connotation of if you're an emotional person, that automatically means that you're the person who's, crying in the corner of the room. That's
Right.
what that means. You you don't have to be necessarily emoting your emotions, though you can become consciously aware of your emotions, feel them in your body, and then learn to express your needs through communication, through communicating, okay, here's what I'm needing. And last thing I'll say is um a researcher by the name of Antonio Damasio. I don't know what institute he's out of, but he has conclusively proven that he's a neuroscientist. I know that. He has conclusively proven that every single decision we make is based on an emotional response. We're just quick to rationalize it. So people are like, I'm not emotional, I'm so logical. It's you've just been quick to rationalize your decisions. And so with men in particular, I think that it's a practice of becoming okay with the fact that you have emotions, learning to understand what your emotions are and feeling your emotions in your body. So again, I'm a feminine energy coach, but guess what? Men have feminine energy too. They've just been trained to suppress it. This is why men also have
Right.
really chronically high rates of depression, suicide. Oh my
Right.
gosh, just so many horrible experiences that men have because of they've been trained to suppress since childhood. Like this is, oh, boys don't cry and oh, suck it up and you're my tough little guy. And so boys are really trained, talk about that subconscious program, trained from a very early age to keep that shit on lock. And my wholehearted advocacy is to learn to unlearn. learn to
Right.
and become okay with the fact that you have emotions. And then even though every decision we make is based on an emotion, it doesn't necessarily mean that every decision needs to be, it's kind of I think of it as kind of a, what's the word? Not a contradiction, but like an oxymoron, I guess. It's like, even though every decision we make is emotionally based, we don't have to make emotionally based decisions. How
Decisions,
do you
right.
do that? By becoming consciously aware of, oh, I'm making this decision because, because of how it's going to make me feel, or just becoming consciously aware of it. So yeah. So
Self-awareness,
sure.
self-awareness. And that's, that's one of the things that even in the practices that, that I teach and coach about is about, just this ability to self-reflect. And
Mhm.
journaling is definitely one of them, like you're talking about taking all of those thoughts and putting it down on paper. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be perfect. Just write down what you're feeling. It's like, fuck, I hate this day. All right,
Mhm.
that's what it feels right now in
Mhm.
this moment.
Mhm.
Sometimes we get so caught up in that um, emotional turmoil
Mhm.
that we find ourselves judging ourselves, like you were saying,
Mhm.
finding ourselves suppressing those emotions
Mhm.
instead of just being like, this is what I'm feeling. We've made it out to be that we're not emotional creatures.
Yeah, I know. It's
We
like,
don't have
okay.
emotions. We shouldn't have emotions,
Uh-huh.
right? Even in work, right? It's like, oh, she's a woman. Of course she's going to have those emotions.
Mhm.
Oh, that guy over there, yeah, he's so emotional. He's unstable. Right?
Mhm.
We have these negative connotations that has
Mhm.
to reflect on our emotions when it's just part of being human.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it's like you're talking about how men also have feminine energy.
Mhm.
So women have masculine energy.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about those two different energies that every human being holds?
Totally, totally. Yeah. So we all have masculine and feminine energy. Masculine energy, as we were describing, is more of that like doing, going, very productive, very analytical, very in the mind, very structured, very organized. And again, we need our masculine energy. I want my masculine energy turned on when I'm working because that's what helps to give me that pep in my step and my go, go, go.
Right.
Whereas with feminine energy is a little slower. So like it's like they're think of like polar opposites in many ways. Um, in terms on like a spectrum. Okay. So masculine energy is very fast and quick and go. Feminine energy is a little slower. Feminine energy is more it's more of a sensual energy. It's definitely internal. It's your emotional space. It's your ability to self-reflect. It's just it's being in your body. It's very intuitive. So while masculine energy is very intellectual, feminine energy is that intuitive space. And again, because we've been as a society, particularly here on the West, we're really encouraged with, as you were describing, the busyness, like where busyness is a badge of honor. And we've been so many that just societally speaking trained to be in that go 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 heavily masculine energy space and it's so uncomfortable for us to slow down. And I saw this big time during 2020 when everything shut down and we were like,
Mhm.
forced to slow down.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And not
Yes.
only was it just a pattern change that spiked the anxiety, but it was like, oh my fucking God, I don't even know what to do with all this energy. And like divorce rates spiked through the roof
Right.
during that time because
Right.
people were now like forced to be present with each other and they're like,
Yes.
"I'm with you any longer. So many things happening. But yeah, so it's feminine energy is that ability to be in that more yin space. I call it yin energy, being in the yin and the yang uh it's very messy too. Like your emotions are, we move through so many emotions throughout the day. I mean, we're thinking 60 to 70,000 thoughts, and every single thought we think produces a neurochemical emotional reaction. Every
Yes.
single we just and we're because we haven't been trained in many ways
Right.
to be in our body. And that's not a slam to any, generations. Oh, they didn't teach me, therefore it's their fault. No, they didn't fucking know this shit either. Like this is all new.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
my work is around because it's at least my doctoral work is really looking at leadership of the future, the ability to be in relationship with each other. My belief is that because our connections with others are only as strong as the connection we have with ourselves. And if you have a pretty shallow connection with yourself, you're not going to be able to connect deeply with other people. This is where a lot of relational, romantic relationships, we have family, friends, and romantic, and then career as well. But in romantic relationships, so many women are craving a depth of connection with their partner, though, because they're struggling to access their own emotions by being more in that masculine energy state. It creates a conflict. And I'm not blaming women like, oh, this is your fault. I'm just saying that these are just patterns that we're now learning how to reprogram within
Right.
ourselves. And so my work is looking at getting into your body and starting with kindergartners to learn through that window of opportunity, getting into your body at such a young age to articulate and identify how you're feeling, along with tools to regulate. That's what allows you to be in relationship with others. Because otherwise, you think of like relational leadership, it's group leadership. Okay, well, if you have groups are essentially a gathering of individuals. Okay, and
Yes.
so if those individuals, what we need in order for relational leadership, for decisions and collaboration and visions as a group to come to fruition, yeah, you better believe you need that group is going to function much better if all those individuals know how to regulate themselves, know how
Exactly.
to have self-restraint, know how to be emotionally regulated, to being in connection with themselves. Yeah, that's going to make the group cohesion much smoother. I'm going to be able to hear you much more effectively because of developing my emotional intelligence, which is inextricably connected with a mindfulness practice. Mindfulness practice is ideal for boosting emotional intelligence, which is one of the number one qualities that leaders need, is the ability, emotional intelligence. What's emotional intelligence? It's recognizing my emotions in myself. And when I can recognize my emotions in myself, I'm now able to recognize, oh, this is the emotions going on with you. As well as social intelligence. What's social intelligence? Social intelligence points to how our brain is wired to connect, um, to other people, and how important it is to nurture interpersonal relationships, as well as pro-social behavior. What's pro-social behavior? Pro-social behavior is the demonstrating a care and concern for other people, not codependently, not taking on their problems as your own, but having just a recognition of self and other, and oh, are you okay? Like there's a care and concern through helping, sharing, comforting, those qualities. And so yeah, that's my whole shtick, is learning to cultivate and foster these, what I
Yes.
call relational qualities, the emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and pro-social behavior, through a mindfulness breathing practice beginning at the age of 5, I believe. And of course, more longitudinal studies would need to be conducted, and all of that. But, and just as you had said before, it's if children were taught this ongoingly, yeah, I'm in full agreement with you. I think we're going to see a very different generation, or at least a generation that's much more in tune with themselves and able to be in tune with others.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it reminds me of one last thing I'll share with this is, it reminds me of one of my favorite Dr. Brene Brown. You know Brene
Yeah.
Brown. Yeah, of course you do. I'm like, I know you do. Brene Brown's, one of her quotes is, we are in desperate need of wholehearted leaders who are self-aware enough to lead from both their heart and mind, rather than unevolved leaders who lead from hurt and fear.
Ooh.
Yes. And
Ooh.
that's it right there, is being self-aware enough, self-awareness through cultivating internal reflection skills via a mindfulness practice, and being able to emotionally regulate, I believe is just a necessary ingredient for being able to relate and work with other people.
Absolutely. It's like when I attended your defense, and
Okay.
everything that you were talking about, and you attended mine too. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so thanks for being there. But
Mm-hmm.
with my dissertation, it was the evolution of Aloha, systemic change through personal transformation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of my favorite quotes is by Jiddu Krishnamurti. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like he says that, the only hope for humankind is in the transformation of the individual. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're talking about how when people get together in groups, that in order for them to have this pro-social behavior where they can actually see each other as human beings and be empathetic and compassionate, is that they need to feel that for themselves as
Mm-hmm.
well too. And social emotional intelligence and the self-regulation, the self-awareness, and the self-reflection skills are so important for children
Mm-hmm.
and for adults as well too. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about breathing and this energy, it just brings me back to the meaning of aloha, what I
Mm-hmm.
shared with you, right? So a lot of times people, they understand aloha as just a simple greeting. But
Mm-hmm.
when we break the word down, alo,
Mm-hmm.
presence, and ha, breath of life, that
Mm-hmm.
we are in the presence of each other's breath. That if we are
Mm-hmm.
in this place of shallow breathing,
Mm-hmm.
that's really not going to get us anywhere, because with that shallow breathing, you have that fight or flight, that you have that dumping of the cortisol, you have that cognitive dissonance, right? We
Mm-hmm.
no longer can listen to one another. All we want to do is just reply.
Yeah.
And based off of our shallow breathing and everything that's going on, is like the way that we're thinking is just going to be based off of the biases that we have, the ideas that we grew up with. We don't even challenge any of those narratives.
Mm-hmm.
So many things can happen simultaneously when we come together as adults. And right now in our country, we are seeing such a divide, especially now with this upcoming election that's happening. Is
Mm-hmm.
I can you can see it on social media. I can walk into a grocery store and I can hear the conversations, and everyone is so fearful,
Mm-hmm.
they're so angry. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, and
you
very
know,
stuck in the
and
belief
very
system
stuff.
and unable to even hear the other.
Yes,
Yeah, it's like us versus them big time. And
continuously.
mhm,
That's what it is, right? Not realizing that there are multiple ways to understanding the world. There are
yeah.
multiple truths
Mhm,
that there is. I mean, and you were talking about, I love the way that you describe, it's like when you're in connection with the divine, with the source,
mhm,
however you call it. You can call it spiritual, you can call it God, you can call it whatever it is, your own way of
mhm,
connecting spiritually.
mhm.
But we're so stuck. I
Yeah.
mean, individuals are so stuck. It's like, well, this is the way it is, and this is what it said, and you're wrong if you're doing it this way. And it's like, I just want to be the best version of myself.
Girl, yes, exactly. Yeah, a lot of dogmatic um uh indoctrination from very early on. And that's what's interesting about the subconscious mind too, is our subconscious mind gets imprinted between the ages of 0 to 2 all the way up till 8, but mostly in that 0 to 2 range, where our subconscious mind is just it's also pre-verbal. So oftentimes if people have experienced really early on childhood trauma and they can't quite explain why they feel or experience the way they do, it's often because it was pre-verbal. It's called pre-verbal wounds. That's where like you want to go to like an EMDR, IFS therapist. They can like take you deep into your unconscious to
Yeah.
program some of that. But yeah, the stories that we get imprinted with at a very early age, and this is moving into attachment style land now, but that's why I'm like,
Yes,
and to,
yes.
the way to understand relationships is to understand your attachment style. That's my whole other hat that I wear. that's basically what I do with both adults is, and I particularly work with I work with all attachment styles, but I'm specifically I think of most use for anxiously attached women on a spiritual healing path who um struggle with all attachment styles can struggle with anxiety, but anxiously attached being if in early childhood, if you had a parent who was inconsistent, like they were there one minute, but they weren't, maybe they worked a lot. And so you were in daycare, or you were at grandma's house, or there was actually like some like real abandonment. There's a deep core wound that gets imprinted at a very early age of, oh my gosh, they're never coming back. And there's this fear of abandonment. And so that fear of abandonment now gets locked into your subconscious mind, and how your subconscious gets imprinted is through repetition plus emotion. So if you're repeatedly abandoned, or even like this perception of abandonment, that repetition will ingrain this sense of, oh my gosh, you're going to leave me. You're never coming back. Oh, thank you. Thank God you're back. You're back. You're back. And that feeling of relief of, oh my gosh, you're back. You're back. You're back. I love this feeling of love. I just want to keep it all the time. That fear of abandonment that was imprinted at such an early age will stay with you your entire life until it's reprogrammed. This is why we have adults who really can struggle with that clinginess of, oh my gosh, like a panic of oh my gosh, my partners, they haven't called me back, they haven't texted me back. They must be leaving me. They're getting tired of me. I need to cling on harder. And so it creates this vicious cycle. And then usually anxiously attached partners are with a dismissive avoidant or a fearful avoidant who has both sides. That's me. I'm fearful. I have both sides of the continuum, where there's the dismissive avoidant who experienced in childhood a large degree of emotional neglect. So even if their physical life was, they had food on the table, they had a roof over their head, maybe they talked to their caregivers, but there wasn't any really like emotional connection. And oftentimes if this child would reach out for a bid for connection, or like cry, or I need to be held, they were often met with, stop crying, quit being such a baby, suck it up. And so at an early age, when it's 5-year-olds, they're very self-absorbed at that time. And that's developmentally, they're not selfish or mean. They're just the center of their own world. They take everything personally. And so if they're being told, stop crying, suck it up, well, they learn very early on, oh gosh, the emotions don't feel good, even though it's in the actual language they're using, but subconsciously they're thinking, oh my God, like this doesn't feel good. Okay, I'm not gonna need anybody, because anytime I reach out for needs, I get met with feeling this shame. And so dismissive avoidants really struggle with a feeling of shame, and something's wrong with me. That's a huge core wound that dismissive avoidants struggle with. Is something's wrong with me. I'm broken. I'm defective. I'm going to be trapped if. And so, but learning this about yourself and learning this about your partner allows you to communicate your needs. So the anxiously avoidant partner can then communicate to their DA saying, I'm just somebody who needs a lot of reassurance. I struggle with feelings of abandonment. Even if my conscious mind knows that you're at work right now and you can't text me back, subconsciously, I'm still 2 years old. And I'm afraid that you're going to leave me forever. Because basically our early childhood caretakers get replaced by our later adult romantic partners, and friendships too, but predominantly in romantic relationships. And so when an anxiously attached person and learning to reprogram those subconscious core wounds, which there's a whole that's a whole other podcast just to talk about. And then the DA learning to communicate. First off, the DA learning that they have needs, because oftentimes they're not even aware that they even have needs, but learning to communicate, I'm somebody who just needs a lot of space. So the DA
And DA again is dismissive attachment.
Yeah, dismissive avoidant attachment.
Dismissive avoidant.
And then fearful avoidant is right in the middle. Fearful avoidant had both that experience of real or perceived abandonment, but also enough love to associate, oh, this feeling of love feels good, but then it might go away. So, oh, I've got this like need for closeness and clinginess, but also experienced some form of emotional neglect. So FAs generally had some form of chaos in childhood. On an extreme level, this could be children who experience domestic violence, drug use in the house, a lot of moving, a lot of chaos, a lot of fighting, a lot of, and so it creates this flip flop. Like, so FAs tend to be at war with themselves. FAs also experience high levels of anxiety. Hello.
Mm.
And so they're the ones that can experience this like 1 foot in, 1 foot out in a relationship, flip flop, in, out, up, down. Like, I want to be with you now. Now you're close to me. Now get the fuck away. It's like, it can be very confusing for both partners, for both. If you're an anxiously attached with an FA, it's like, okay, I just want this closeness. It feels so good. And the FA is like, yeah, I love the closeness too. This is so great. But now you're too close. So get the fuck away. And the DA is like, oh my gosh, you're, and FAs tend to be very present, very emotional, because we had so much chaos in our childhood, we learned to become hyper vigilant and read between the lines for our own survival. Because again, subconscious mind doesn't give a fuck how you feel. It gives a fuck about keeping you alive. And so we learned really early on we can detect micro expressions on people's face, inflections in tone and the voice that differentiate. We're pattern detectors. Fucking straight up human lie detectors. You're gonna get shit past a fucking FA, I'll tell you that much. Especially if an FA who has like a lot of Gemini or a lot of Virgo in them. Fucking forget it. You're not getting shit past that person. They're gonna see right through your ass. And so because DAs didn't have a lot of that emotional attunement as a child, FAs, oh my gosh, DAs end up feeling like, wow, this person sees me so much. But again, because they have that need for space, they'll pull back, and then the FA will get really angry, because we can struggle with anger and rage and frustration, especially pattern shift. And so then the FA will start barking and being mean and critical to the DA, and the DA is afraid of conflict and vulnerability, so they're just going to pull back even further. So we get a lot of this. And then the FA, because they also have that DA side, they'll be like, well, fuck you, you're pulling away from me. Well, then I'm going to pull away from you. And then the DA will say, after a space of time, will say, okay, I'm ready to come back. It's so
And
fascinating.
FA again is what is FA again?
Fearful avoidance. So there's anxious attachment or anxious preoccupied, fearful avoidant, and dismissive avoidant. And then there's secure, which when I hear people saying, I want to be happy, the subtext of what I'm hearing them say is, I want to be secure. Securely attached people tend to be more emotionally regulated. They're in tune with their needs. They're in tune with their emotions. They're able to hear the perspective of other people without taking it so personally. Why? Because they're not being activated by all these unhealed core wounds that are floating around in the subconscious mind. And that's really what happens. Like, when we have these unhealed core wounds, our nervous system will orient around this and say, I'm going to protect you at all fucking costs. Okay, you feel unworthy, I'm gonna make sure you never feel unworthy again. And so what ends up happening is somebody like, me, when I was like in my extreme fearful avoidance state, FAs can really struggle with feeling unworthy and a fear of betrayal. And so it's like, okay, I'm never going to let you feel betrayed again. So we're going to keep our hypervigilance on big time. And what ends up happening is we then create all these stories in our mind about what's happening, when in reality, it's a product of the unhealed core wound that's speaking. This is why it's important to get in touch with your inner voice of, what the fucking story are you telling yourself? Because can you know for certain that that's actually happening, that they're leaving you, that they want nothing to do with you anymore, that they're going to betray you? No. Okay, what else could be happening here? Well, they're dismissive avoidant and they need some fucking space right now. It's not personal. It's just, that's a need of theirs. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with me. And so like learning to reprogram and to reframe through repetition and like repeatedly shifting, and it's like turning the dial, like repeatedly shifting into a whole new belief system will what that ends up doing on a neurological level is, now your neurological, what it does is neurons that fire together wire together. So if you're starting to, you have this belief of, I'm so unworthy, I'm going to be betrayed, but now you're realizing, okay, no, I'm not, I am worthy, and I'm not going to be betrayed. I can trust. And you start looking for evidence in your subconscious mind. Well, what other times I've been able to trust? Okay, well, I was able to trust, I was able to trust my friend that one time and they showed up. It's like bringing this to your conscious awareness. That's what slows the story down. And then you begin to fire a whole new neural pathway in your brain, and you starve out the old belief. And it only takes research has shown that it takes um, as little as 21 days to reprogram a subconscious wound. Now, going like 30, 40 days, it's going to, really lock it into place, but at least to get that story to slow down and fire a new one, 21 days, 3 fucking weeks. The problem is that the people have a hard time staying consistent.
Right, right. So it sounds like an FA and a DA can move towards an SA.
Yes.
That's where that's the goal. And
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's like when you are explaining about all of these different attachments and things like that, when you can self-regulate,
Mhm.
when you can be self-aware and you
Mhm.
can self-reflect, you can get to that core hurt and
Mhm.
heal that core hurt. So
Mhm.
this is where I feel like with this generational trauma that a lot of people are dealing with is with you as an individual, if you're able to have these practices and be able to take that 21 days of just being able to heal yourself,
Mhm.
you're healing 7 generations,
Oh my gosh.
generations back.
Yeah.
You're not bringing it forward to the 3 generations by being the 7th generation of healing yourself.
Yeah.
You are the 7th generation of healing when you're able to do that. Um and I feel that all of these tools that you've been talking about and sharing is just a step into the direction of a different society that we have right now.
Yeah.
And so how can people find you and all of this other kind of stuff?
Yay. Well, by the time folks are listening, my website should be live. I'm at the final stages right now. So you could look me up, lightfootselfandsoul.com. That's LIGHTFOOT, self, SELF, and Andy, soul, SOUL. Lightfoot Self and Soul. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, a little bit on Facebook, but mainly those are my 3 platforms, is my website, Instagram, TikTok. And on those, that's where I share a lot more about, specifically about attachment styles and self-regulation tools and how to get into your body. That's like my jam, is just getting into your body and all these
And
different ways. There's no, wrong way to do it. And it's not even like
right,
my way is the
right.
right way. This is just what has worked for me. And because I'm a recovering fearful avoidant, that's the hardest attachment style to heal. Why? Because we have the core wounds of both anxious and dismissive. And so I'm a living testament that by learning to reprogram your subconscious mind, developing a mindfulness practice, and a lot of it is just basic shit, like learning how to breathe properly, drinking
Mm-hmm.
water in the morning, getting sunshine, like like so much of it is just bringing it back to basics.
Right, right.
My life is completely different.
Exactly. And there's there's also different kinds of tools because I know you're in Southern California, right?
Mhm.
And I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and we're getting to the season where the sun's going to go away.
Mm.
And it becomes rainy and dark, and so depression and all of these things starts to elevate and escalate and everything. But I always keep like this light thing with me where
Mm.
I can just it's not plug. Oh, there you go. See,
Oh,
I can,
beautiful. Yeah. Like
because I
the,
need the sun.
yes,
I'm a sun worshiper. And so,
yes.
it's like I need those things. I take my vitamins.
Mhm.
Every morning I start off with drinking a glass of water, meditation, just
Mhm.
breathing. And my meditation doesn't take very long, right? It's just being able to wake up and not just jump into work. Because I did that for such a long time, Erin, where I would just roll out of bed, do what I felt was normal, run off to work, work, bring that stress back home,
Mhm.
and sometimes I could even find myself where if my husband and I got into some kind of argument or, we weren't in alignment in the morning and I go off to work, I am not in alignment all goddamn day. And then when
Mm-mm.
I come back and I see him, I'm just as angry as when I left 8, 9 hours ago.
Yep.
So imagine that even though people don't think that, oh, you didn't seem angry, we have this low resonating energy
Mhm,
in us
mhm.
all day long that is affecting every single cell and organ in my body.
Yep. Mhm.
And we work that way. We don't talk about the impact of stress. We
Yep.
don't talk about the impact of having these negative energies around us because we're all energetic creatures.
Oh yeah, we
We're
are
all
picking up
energetic
on,
creatures.
and like even from
Every,
miles away, like yeah, I'm in California, you're in Washington, but we can feel each other's energy. It's like it, and then when you're in close
yes,
proximity, oh my gosh, you're in like a cesspool. So it's
right.
keep your field, your auric field clear
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
strong, and like wearing crystals. And I mean, I've got crystals in my bra right now, like. I got crystals all next to me. You know, it's like I'm energy, keeping your energetic
Yes.
field um clear and regulated. Yeah, it's like there's just like I'm so big about like filling up your tool bag with just because again, like I have like such a sensitive nervous system that it's become imperative for me. If I want to be a functional, um, happy human being, it is imperative that I regulate my nervous system. And this fucking includes sometimes you need a damn friends cleanse, okay? The people in your orbit that are around you, if there's people who are fucking bringing your ass down, you need
Yes.
to get in a right relationship with yourself. Like, does this fucking feel good to me? Maybe I need stronger boundaries because this person makes
Right.
me feel like shit and I don't want
Right.
to be around them anymore. Oh, but my family says I have to because they're family. Fuck that. No, you don't. If somebody, hell no. Oh,
Exactly.
and for the rest of my life, come into my life and treat me less than I would treat myself. Fuck that. That was
Yes.
Erin version 1.0. Fuck that noise. Hell motherfucking no. No. It's not about that's different than, oh, treat me like a princess. I'm on a pedestal now. It's about being in right relationship with yourself, being grounded, becoming emotionally mature, becoming secure within yourself, because then you
Yes.
don't have to compare yourself to other people and stuck in that comparisonitis and criticism and control and all that fucking shit. You're just in a good relationship with yourself, and then life becomes a lot fucking smoother.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And so that narrative that you're talking about, it's just not the narrative of, what you think about other people is what you're thinking about yourself. So
Yes.
that alo and that ha, you've got to aloha yourself as
Oh,
well
girl,
too.
I love me some Dr. G Aloha work. You know, I am a huge fan of your work. And that was exactly what my experience was with attending your defense was I had the exact same thoughts. I was like, wow, we're doing the same work,
Yes.
but just with different generations. I started
Right.
with children and I work with adults. You started with adults. You wrote this gorgeous children's book. And if anybody doesn't have a book right now and you have children in your life, my
I
kids,
got it. Yes, right
yes, my
here.
daughter was just reading it last night. I need to send you a picture
Oh,
of her reading it. Yeah, because she loves it. She's been practicing with the breath and yeah, I love your work. Your work is so needed, and I love the
thank you.
crossover and the similarity between our work. I love you so much. I have so much respect for you, and
Oh,
I
the
just love everything
same.
that you're doing, and I'm so fucking proud of you, girlfriend. I'm so glad that we're friends. I was so honored for you to be in my life. I'm so honored to be your friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, I think again, it's that energy,
yeah.
right? Is that when you are in alignment with your good energy, it attracts other people's energies. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we get together, we just elevate,
We
right?
vibe.
We vibe. We
We vibe.
do. We do. We vibe. And I think when we have this vibe, it's contagious.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
contagious, but we need to be able to mirror all of the work that we're doing as
Yeah.
well too. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean whenever I think about the aloha work, it's because I needed that.
Yeah.
I needed it. Just like how you were struggling with anxiety, you needed to find tools so then that way you were able to self-regulate. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the doctoral work,
Yeah.
right? It's that we find this passion and we do research on it and we grow from it and we evolve from that. And so
Yeah.
we become the living document. We
Yeah.
become our living document.
Yes. Oh, girl, grow through what you go through. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think I was going to get you into highest soul alignment, your soul's purpose. Like we were brought here for very specific,
right.
my belief system is, I believe that everything in my life is like a soul lesson. Like, okay, this is meant to be shape my soul this way. Yeah, and just getting into right relationship with yourself and really recognizing like, oh, I've been an accountant for 20 years of my life, but actually I just want to go rock climbing all the time. That's why I fucking hate my job. It's because I have a need for adventure and
Right.
getting into right relationship
Right.
with yourself so that you're no longer in those, yeah.
It's,
We probably have like 20 more conversations that we just like sprinkled in here.
exactly, exactly. And so yeah, I'm so honored and I'm so thankful for your existence on this planet and what you're doing. And I feel that, the combination of the work that we're doing out there,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can see a different generation, a different world on how we treat one another, how we see one another, right?
Mhm.
But we all got to be in alignment with ourselves. And a lot of times when, people always say, you sound so woo woo, right?
Yeah.
It's all woo woo work, this mindfulness stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we need a little more woo in our world.
Yeah. I'm just saying. Yeah, maybe we need a little bit more woo up in our life.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I wanted to just thank you so much for being here. I can't believe that it's almost an hour and a half that we've been on this call. I told you it was going to go fast. I told you it was going to go fast. And so,
Wow.
yeah, so thank you, Dr. Erin, for joining me today. And again, you can find her on Instagram and TikTok by searching Lightfoot Self and Soul, or
Mhm.
through her website, which is going to be coming soon, hopefully by the end of this month, you
I'm
think?
hoping that's
Yeah.
that's what it's looking like.
Awesome, awesome. And so that's going to be www.lightfootselfandsoul.com. So look up Dr. Erin, and you are taking new clients right now,
I
correct?
am. Yeah, once I'm done cleaning up all the back end stuff from transitioning from dissertation completing, now I'm just finishing off, the back end stuff. But yeah, I will be taking on clients one-on-one and, just holding a lantern for you to go deep within to see what's going on in your subconscious
Absolutely.
mind. And I'm all about empowerment work. I'm going to make it fun and really, it's fast tracking you toward
Well, we're definitely going to be in touch again because
yes, we
I think
will, girl.
we can do some really amazing things together. And so I just wanted to thank all of our listeners. You've been listening to the Evolution of Aloha podcast, a Plowline Media production. So tune in for upcoming episodes with other amazing peeps that's out there. And don't forget to subscribe to the Evolution of Aloha and Plowline podcast. It's available on all of your popular podcast platforms. And help us continue doing this work by becoming a supporter, and head over to patreon.com/Plowline Productions, and your contributions will go directly toward producing and building engaging and quality content. So again, this is a Plowline Media production. Until next time, please take care of yourselves. Breathe intentionally. Take care of yourselves and each other. So aloha, everyone, and mahalo.
Bye.